And we are live. Hello, this is Rena Dipti Annabelle, aka Mummy Imperfect, and you are listening to the Sisterhood of Mummy Imperfect, the weekly podcast that delves into different aspects of womanhood and the place where we celebrate those women who are all game changers in their own way. Now, this is the episode that you need in your life on a cold winter's day in January when all the Christmas lights have been packed away, when you feel the pressure to hit the gym, but really you just want to, be on a sofa eating a packet of crisps, watching TV. No judgment here. But if you find yourself struggling to get through the winter slump or even the midweek slump, then keep listening because we're going to be talking about rituals that you can incorporate into your life for better happiness and health. And if you want to know what foods to eat to boost your mood, then make sure you keep it locked here because I'm going to be talking to my guest about all of this and more. So let me introduce her now. It's cookbook author, chef, and health practitioner Mira Manek. Hi, Mira.
Hello. Very wonderful to be on here. So thank you for having me, Rena.
Well, it's nice to talk to you again. We have met in real life a long time ago because we have a mutual friend. So it was
Yes.
ages ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I love how social media keeps us all connected. One of the pros of social media.
I know. And I think our friend is very excited today that we're talking right now. So
I'm
that's
sure
good.
she is.
Okay, so your journey to becoming a cookbook author and going into health and well-being. Like I'm sure when I met you all that time ago, were you doing something different? Because I don't remember hearing anything about this.
I don't know, actually know when we met, but I feel like it was so long ago that
It
I
was a
wasn't
long
doing
ago. It was a yeah.
anything like this. But also, I based even in the UK. I was traveling. I was
Were you in
living
Dubai?
abroad for a number of years in
Yeah.
Dubai, Uganda. I was a travel journalist, and I also ran a charitable organization in Uganda when I was there. But essentially, and then I also became an editor of a magazine. So I kind of was doing something different, but again in the writing field. So I guess there's an element of similarity there.
Mhm, mhm.
But no,
Um,
it wasn't in wellness. I think I was then trying to think. I was thinking I was really healthy at the time, and I think that's when I was coming full circle in terms of realizing that what I grew up eating was actually healthier than what I was eating then, and that I developed a really bad relationship with food, which is what led me to do what I do now.
so when you say really bad relationship with food, like what are we talking about? Just like junk, disordered eating?
Disordered eating, yes, eating disorder essentially.
And
Also,
okay, yeah.
eating disorder, but also like addiction to sugar. I think what happened over the years in terms of university time and later was that the whole low fat fad had started at that time.
Yes.
And I was very much like, I've always had a sweet tooth, but I was trying to doing these diets like Weight Watchers or whatever it is, like different diets. But essentially, I'd be having the sweeter stuff and I'd be I'll be letting my sweet tooth, like
Mm.
indulging my sweet tooth. And by doing that, got addicted to sugar by doing that. And as in, I basically got those spikes and I never knew what that was then. But, having that sudden crash, I'd get that crash. And I felt older than I feel now. Obviously, I did lose weight on Weight Watchers and all of that. But when I wasn't doing those diets, I would eat sweet foods over any savory foods. So I would have snacks over meals. So that's the sort of disordered eating we talk about. And then I'd go crazy in the gym and never really see that there was a result. Well, sometimes I'd see a result and sometimes I wouldn't. And obviously, I understand all this now. It's a science. But essentially, when I was younger, I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought I was being healthy by having healthy foods. But actually, there is no such thing as healthy foods. It's about how you eat, what you eat, when you eat, and how much you eat.
That is a really important thing to keep in mind, like what you just said. And by the way, I totally identify with what you said because I feel like at uni, there's a certain age where you're just like, oh, it's just about getting by. You know what I mean? Your main focus isn't like, oh, Wes, what can I make nutritionally balanced food today? You don't think about that. You're just trying to get by in life and, balance everything and you're still growing up, right? So the sugar addiction thing, I completely identify with. I think I still struggle with that. But um, I grew up when the Slim Fast craze just
Yeah.
came in, like, when I was a teenager. I actually got Slim Fast. I don't know how I convinced my parents to actually, like, get this as part of the food shop, but, I don't think anyone I don't know, did they even know what the hell I was doing? But I did, have this chocolate Slim Fast shake sometimes, and I'd have it for breakfast, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I'm losing weight. I bet I'm gonna be so thin by tomorrow." Like, what rubbish is this? I can't
I
believe I
know.
actually did that.
It's ridiculous what we believe. I mean, yes, I understand the point system, which Weight Watchers now I understand what that was all about. But if you're not going to be eating the right stuff, and if you're going to be eating the wrong stuff, as in if you're going to have snacks as opposed to meals and that sort of thing, then it contributes to that disordered eating. Whereas if you're a normal eater, it might be okay to do something like that. So it's about the awareness and the knowledge and creating
Mm.
good and bad habits, and not getting addicted to the wrong things, or trying to just be balanced in your approach.
Yeah. And I've got your book here, right? I absolutely love this book. I feel like it's such like a handbook, and I needed it at this point in the year, I feel. Handbook in terms of like, it's got everything in there. So it's got, even like prayers, yoga, food, and then it's like nice, and it's a nice size. You can even like put it in your handbag. Do you know what, Mira? I actually I was looking for this the other night, and my 12-year-old daughter had actually gone to bed with it, so I couldn't find
Oh
it.
my
And she was
God.
reading it at night, and she actually made the one of the porridges, the apple and ginger porridge. She made it before me. I was like, "Oh, what do you do? Like, is it nice?" So so it's really nice that she's really loving it
That's
as well.
amazing. Well, that's really good to hear because it's nice that it appeals to her age group as well. Wow, that really makes me happy. I do
Yeah,
think it's kind of like well, both my books, but especially this one, is very timeless in terms of it doesn't. Yes, Ayurveda's become a bit more popular, but it's not about popularity. It's just about awareness of rituals and how different things in um, different rituals and practices can help uplift you from a dark place or just make you have a more balanced approach and day.
yeah. Yeah, and so I'm really happy that she's reading that now because she's obviously young, so it's nice for her to get, all this kind of a influence. She did say to me though, "Oh, mommy, I I need to go to a cafe and sit there on my own and have some nice time observing the world." And I'm like, "You're not gonna do that because you're 12."
That's so funny. Wow. Yeah, I did write about that, right? Sitting in
I
a
know. I was
cafe and
like,
sitting.
yeah. I was like,
One of
"You
the
know what?"
rituals that you can. I just think it's. Well, that's quite funny, actually. So she has been reading it. That's the homework to show she's been reading it.
Exactly,
How
exactly.
wonderful. That's so amazing to hear. But yeah, it's all about just carving out time to do different things and not overwhelming yourself. Like
Yeah.
you can't open the book or create your own toolkit for happiness by literally cramming in 15 things in the day. Start with one. Do that 1 minute a day, and then start the next thing, and increase the time you do the breath work or increase the time you're running. And it doesn't have to be something holistic like Ayurveda and breath work and yoga. It can be. And it's good to always have something calming and something that is more movement related, whether it's running or activity cardio, any sort of cardio or weightlifting. It can be anything. And I started when I was writing that book, I had a cafe in a yoga studio. I did a lot of yoga, but I also went to the gym. And now I've actually transitioned into doing a lot more weight training, and it's just passages of time. So whatever ritual it is that you have in life, whether it's waking up at 6 a.m. and doing the workout or going for a 10-minute walk before you start your day, whatever it is, just try and make sure you're consistent with what that is, because consistency will show you how that one ritual or those two rituals or whatever you plan to do creates a change in your mind and your day.
This is what I'm finding now, that consistency in everything really. It's like sometimes when you think, "Oh, that's not working," or whatever, but then that becomes a habit, right? Or you actually see some gains from it. So, I guess it's just keeping on doing the thing, right?
Yeah, and I think, one thing that I lack is structure, and I'm trying to do more of that this year in terms of structuring my day while I'm planning a little bit, which I've never been good at. I'm very ad hoc with the different things that I
Mm.
do. And so being structured with that, February onwards, obviously January has been a bit of a slow start. February onwards, being a bit more structured about my time or, waking up on certain days at a certain time. I mean, January's been a very hard month, I would say, waking up wise. And the weather has been like, I've not experienced these sorts of temperatures consistently in such a long time. So I find it quite
I
hard to
know,
get up in the
I
mornings.
know. I
but
do I do yeah.
but I'm hoping February onwards I can start to rev up that sort of early morning start, because it really makes such a difference. A lot of last year, waking up really early and doing my workout first thing in the morning just made me have such a great start to the day, because you feel like you're not falling behind them and you're not trying to play catch up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works differently for different people, but I definitely am with you that I have to do things like that in the morning. Like, I think I'm more a morning person.
Oh,
Like,
I
by
completely agree. It works differently for everyone. And I love going to the gym in the evening. These days I've been doing that. But what I mean is that I think starting your day early and doing whatever it is in first thing in the morning before, like, even if it's journaling or getting up and doing 10 minutes of, I don't know, it could be meditation, it could be listening to something, it could be just writing in your book about thoughts you've had or dreams that you've had, anything, just something that comes to mind, writing it down, or just, burning your Palo Santo and clearing the air and just making sure you have a minute to yourself before the whole world, or like the world bombards you, or before you start your day. It's just nice to have that one thing in the morning that sets a good start to the day.
100%. Like that for me, I'll wake up extra early, like before everybody else in the house, just to have that time. I say it so many times on this podcast, but it's so, I don't know, like I need that time just to kind of be like, okay, get with it, set the intention for the day. So yeah, I think that's really important. So okay, we got a comment here. Let me just show you this. I agree. Consistency is key. I try to have the same breakfast every day and only break my fast after 12 p.m. I'm making breakfast as I time.
Oh, yum. I want breakfast right now. Yeah, I do. I try and delay my breakfast a lot. Today I actually had something, but that's the other thing, sticking to whatever you've committed to. And that's something that today I haven't stuck to, because I generally do have breakfast late, but I ended up having slightly early. But also honoring your body sometimes when you really, really need to feel super low on energy, giving into that one thing and having it is also okay.
So like, in that comment, it was, they have the same breakfast every day. And some people, I feel like in this day and age, everyone thinks, oh, it's so boring, we've got to change it up, or like having the same food over and over again is seen as like, oh, who does that? Like, what planet are we living in? We have access to so much stuff. Whereas, when I think about like the way that people like Indian people have lived traditionally, it is those same simple kind of things, right?
Yeah,
That
it's
is just
all about
key.
simplicity. Simple is exactly what, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. If you can become simpler with your food, it's a lot better for your gut, it's a lot better for your health, it's easier for your life. So even if it is just porridge with banana, you can mix up maybe the fruit that you put in it or what you have with it. Or you can just have the same thing every day and it's completely fine. However, there is something to be said about having a diversity of plants and vegetables,
Right.
or fruits and vegetables. So having, they say, I think 30 different vegetables in the week or something like that. It's just good for the gut to be receiving or digesting different types of vegetables and plants. So not sticking to the exact same vegetable is probably a good thing. Also, I think intolerances are sometimes created by having the same thing over and over again. So while you think that you might be allergic, it's probably not an allergy, you just might be intolerant to something because you've been having it too much. And it's fine to have like a week's break from it. When I love porridge, I love anything to do with oats. And once when I went for my intolerance test ages ago, she said, just stop eating oats for a week or two, because I'd just been eating them too much. And there's nothing wrong with oats, but it's good to have a bit of a break from things as well.
Right. Are there foods then that can actually boost our mood and make us just feel happier?
Of course. So I think that's where spices come in. So I've just recently done, we had a dinner last night at the hotel, but I've just done a collaboration with a restaurant in central London where I've collaborated with the chef Gary, who used to be at the Ivy and is now at the Middle Age Hotel, on a mood boosting food menu. And it's a small menu, but it's essentially to introduce the concept of spices, and not just in the context of Indian food, but in the context of everyday food. So how can you include spices every day, and why should you include spices every day? Every spice has its own benefit. Digestion benefits, it has mood benefits, like saffron, for example, cardamom, all these things can elevate your mood. And we're not talking a few strands and you feel happy suddenly, but we're talking consistently having these spices. By being consistent with things like ginger, saffron, cardamom, black pepper, all these things, you're going to be helping your gut in the long run and hopefully preventing certain things that might happen. But also you're adding flavor and not adding any calories. So for example, if you're having porridge in the morning and you like cinnamon, put some cinnamon in there. Or if you like cinnamon, have cinnamon in hot water instead of a cup of tea in the day, or put cinnamon in your tea. If you like ginger, then maybe add that to whatever tea that you're drinking, or into your soups. Even if you don't like saffron and cardamom, maybe just try and start including them in things. We're talking little pinches of things. So saffron, for example, you want a very small pinch. Put it into your cup of tea. Put it into a cup of hot milk at night before you sleep, because that will also help you sleep better. Saffron is a spice that helps you sleep better, and therefore combining that with a little bit of turmeric in hot milk will be great as a bedtime snack if you are a little bit hungry, and just have a small amount, maybe an hour before you sleep. Ayurvedically, which is obviously the what I speak a lot about, Ayurveda, it's not good to have things at night. So you should actually give your tummy, your digestive system a break for at least 12 to 14 hours. However, there's nothing wrong with having a small cup of milk with saffron, cardamom, or whatever, pinch of black pepper and turmeric if you want. And just using the spices. You might say, oh God, I've never used that. But if you just search it, Google it, how do you use these spices? Or just experiment with it. Next time you put sweet potato wedges in the oven, coat them with a little bit of oil and cumin seeds, for example, or coriander seeds. Or the next time you make a soup, temper your coriander seeds and mustard seeds in a little bit of oil, and then put in all the soup ingredients. So it's just about experimenting and realizing that you don't need to take out the spice box when you're making certain dishes. Take it out for everything. And all those spices will have an effect on the gut and the mood, because both are related.
So I know we can't go through like every single thing. There's a lot of spices in your book. You've got this appendix, right, where you put different things and what they do. But like these common ones and ones that you mentioned, so things like cinnamon and ginger. So are they the ones that can boost your mood, or are they for immunity? Like, what do they do?
Ginger is very anti-inflammatory, and it's very, very good for your, all of us have inflammation, so it helps to reduce that inflammation. It's also very, very warming. However, if you find it too spicy, it might mean that you already have internal heat. So, don't overdo it with the ginger. So just listen to your body, start small. Grated ginger is great, but you can also use ginger powder. And I often put ginger powder, a half a teaspoon or quarter teaspoon in hot water and drink it. If you do that once or twice a day, see the difference you feel, and you'll feel that warmth within you as well. Cinnamon is great for blood sugar levels, amazingly, and a lot of other things. So, if you're struggling with that, cinnamon, and also cinnamon has a natural sweetness. Get a good quality cinnamon, and you'll actually get lovely sweetness from it. And again, put it in hot water, put it into whatever you're cooking. And thirdly, saffron, it elevates the mood. It also helps you sleep better. Cardamom helps with the mood, helps with the breath, helps with digestion. Cumin, mustard seeds, mustard seeds, both are great for, they're great for cooking. They make everything taste better, and we use that a lot in Indian cooking. However, they're also very, very good for digestion. And if you have stomach issues, then having carom seeds in, either just chewing them, they're quite spicy, or putting them in hot water and having them. And then there's an Ayurvedic tea, which is made with coriander seeds, cumin seeds, fennel seeds. Just mix them in equal proportion, keep them ready, and put them in warm water, hot water. Either eat them while you're drinking the water, or just have the water by itself, and then you can throw the seeds if you want to. I quite like eating the seeds. That's really good, and that's another product that I'm going to be introducing in the Chai by Mira shop, because it's such an easy one to just like guzzle and have in your bag and just put it into hot water. And that's it. I think I've covered a lot of spices there, but I'm sure there are others, and a lot of them are anti-inflammatory, and so many of us carry around inflammation. It'll just help you, help your gut, help your system. And just remember that the gut and the mood, the gut and the mood and the brain are so linked, because 95% of our serotonin, which is the happy hormone, is actually created in the gut. So they call the gut the second brain. Yeah. And then there's a reason for that. Okay, there's a comment here. What's your view on probiotics and digestive enzymes? Are taking tablets okay? Is there a natural way to get the same benefits? They are very good. I think that we live in a day and age where we need extra help with our digestion. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. However, if you have no issue at all, you can get them from home foods. So kefir is one of them, which you can find in the supermarket. Kombucha is another. And we make homemade yogurt. So if you can get a live culture of yogurt and make your own homemade yogurt, that's actually got a lot of beneficial bacteria that you probably won't get from store-bought yogurt. So it's a bit like having your own kefir every single day. So I have homemade yogurt every day. I'm not sure that it would contain as many strains as the probiotic enzyme capsule. But you can obviously aid that with the probiotics. Nothing wrong with having it, and especially if someone's told you to have it. But I've never found that it makes a big, if you have no issues, then you might not need it, is what I'm saying. So you don't want to get dependent on something, that's all.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So kefir is this fermented yogurt. Is that what it is? Fermented yogurt?
Yes, but it's a live culture, which is a lot stronger than like your than your day-to-day yogurt. And it is fermented, and
Okay.
it's fermented so it's got a very strong strain. However, there are kefirs out there that just seem very, very mild. So I'm not sure how much benefit they would have, but it's still better than having, I don't know, a smoothie, for example.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it as medicine, but I would take it as just a additional gut aid, as it were.
Mhm.
Another nice drink you can have. I would say you can, if you're really excited by the kefir, then maybe get the kefir strains and make your own homemade kefir, and that's a lot stronger, a lot more pungent. It doesn't taste as great, but just knock it down, and that's more medicinal, I would say.
And kombucha. So I had that drink for the first time like last year, and I was like, "Ooh, what's this?" It's tangy. It does literally taste like sparkling yogurt, right?
I've never thought of it like that. I thought it tasted a bit like sparkling wine.
Oh,
But
it's just tangy.
um, yeah, there are certain, it is very tangy. It is very tangy. And they put sugar in the tea initially in the culture to actually sweeten it a little bit. But so it's very natural. It's sort of like the bacteria eats up the sugar because it needs the sugar to grow or whatever. So it's necessary. However, there's a lot of kombucha brands out there which I personally feel are super light. Like they taste like another nice lime soda or something. Do you know what I mean? Not too sweet, and they taste healthier. They're definitely a better option, but they don't taste like they have a strong amount of kombucha in them.
Right.
So, but the ones that I've tasted from, I don't know, people I know who make them fresh and live and have the SCOBY lying in there, they are amazing. I absolutely love strong kombucha, but I've not found, I don't know which brand does really strong kombucha.
Right. Okay. So
So
I
it's
guess
worth having, but again, it's not a bad thing to have your, if you're replacing your Diet Coke with kombucha, amazing. If you're having kombucha every day as an additional drink, that's great. But if you're relying on kombucha to sort out your gut issues, I wouldn't be doing that.
Mm. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about foods there, and foods to boost your moods. Let's just talk about rituals. So I mean, you talk about a lot about rituals in this book. How important are rituals to you? Like things that ground you?
So I think I started off writing this book from a place of darkness when I was feeling really lonely, going through a really long divorce, and I didn't call these things rituals. I just woke up and thought, what can make me happy today? And it doesn't mean my whole day is going to go well, because I know it won't, because at the back of my mind, I know I'm depressed and sad. However, if I can do those 2 or 3 things that I know will uplift me even in those moments, then that effect might last a little bit longer. So at least I'm making myself happy for that amount of time. Now, it was never that calculated. It was more just, okay, what can I do today? So whether it was sitting in the sunshine, because I lived in Dubai sometimes at that time, or meeting a friend, or having or doing an exercise class, because obviously that has all the endorphins going on and they last longer. So after a cardio class, you'll probably feel the effect of those endorphins, which are the happy hormones, for about an hour or 2 afterwards. So that will make you feel better, and your body will feel better. So whatever it is, I just did those things to make me feel better. Now, whether you call those practices or rituals, they're just things to uplift you in those moments, and soon enough all those things add up and hopefully make you happier rather than more sad. And that's what happened eventually after many years. So the book really comes from that. However, whether you're going through a sad time or a happy time or you're normal, whatever it is, rituals can just set sort of the grounding, the sort of base of your day. And your days make up your weeks, which make up your months, which make up your year. And so you want to make sure that you have a level grounding that will just provide you with that bounce or that happiness or that sort of baseline of happiness before you start the day, or even when you're only finishing the day or during the day. Because we can all get very busy. We can get caught up in our lives, in stories, in other people's stories, in whatever's going on in life, all the craziness, family stuff, friend stuff. But how can you bring yourself back to yourself? And whether that's a class, maybe a really nice yoga class is what you love. Maybe going to the cinema once a month with a friend is something that will. So it can be a monthly thing. It can be a daily thing. And waking up and doing that one thing that, like I spoke about earlier, I won't just repeat that, but doing that one thing that just, even if it's just smiling. Because even if you're not feeling happy, but by smiling first thing in the morning, even if you don't feel like it and you have no one to smile to, by smiling, your physiology is changing your psychology. Or by taking a few deep breaths when you're feeling anxious, your physiology is changing your psychology. They say the breath is the quickest way for your physiology to change your psychology. And it's very true. So if you're feeling jittery and anxious and crazy and busy, how do you calm yourself down? And just by slowing down the breath and taking it deep into the belly, you will come back to the present moment and just slow yourself down. And you'll feel it mechanically, chemically. So use these different things to slow yourself down, and do make sure that every week there is a high energy thing if you love high energy, but also how are you calming yourself down? You don't always want to be in fight or flight. By doing all these HIIT classes and all these things, you're in fight or flight. You got all that adrenaline and cortisol running around. But how do you put yourself into rest and relax mode so that you also come back to that resting mode? So trying to do the yin and the yang every week. It doesn't have to be every day, but at least every week, and then it'll become every day.
Yeah, I was one of those people who just did the HIIT classes, who just did the spin classes,
Yeah.
and it's only from, like, this time last year that I was like, "No, calm down, go for some walks, do some yoga," and so that's now something that and it's not like I don't naturally choose those things, but I've had to force myself to incorporate them,
Mm. Yeah, I
you know.
agree. I totally agree. And I think it's completely fine to do one and not do the other, but then maybe fit the other in. Like, you don't have to focus on the other, but when you're leaving your gym class or whatever it is, can you spend 10 minutes in the sauna just deep breathing and calming down and just warming yourself up? Or can you leave and just do a walk home and just listen to something and again take a few deep breaths, rather than thinking, oh God, I need to set half an hour aside to listen to the sound bath? Because you don't have to do that. That might come in a year's time, because you might think, oh, you know what, I'm really enjoying all this, I want to like focus on that more. Then that will come. Let it come naturally. You don't have to force yourself to think, oh God, now I need to do an hour of this.
Yeah. Um, would you say that, like, you know, when you felt, lonely and sad and when you were going through your divorce, is it these kind of things that pulled you out ultimately? Like, how did you cope with that and feeling out of control and all that kind of stuff?
I'd say the breath really helped me. I hadn't trained in breath work then, I have now. But by simply doing so much yoga at the time, and actually yoga really helped me. By doing a lot of yoga, I went on yoga retreats at the time, and I just loved yoga, and I started creating community in yoga. And by doing all that yoga, I became a lot more present in that yoga class. And I've always thought that, at that time I was thinking that when I was in the yoga class, that was the only time I wasn't thinking about other things, because you'd have to focus on what you're doing. Now it's not so much there. I don't really have that feeling that I need to become present, because I feel a lot more present generally. However, at that time, I think taking my mind away from what was going on in my life was really important, and yoga made me feel better. Yoga helped me, and taking the breath from yoga, so the breath that I learnt in yoga, the Ujjayi breath, the deepening of the breath, I found by just experimenting that it was helping me in day-to-day life when I was feeling all those jittery feelings. So say, for example, I was about to start crying, or I was about to have a bit of a breakdown. Not how would I prevent myself, because there's nothing wrong with doing all those things. But say I was with somebody and I didn't really want to break down there, then how would I prevent that? And it's not that I would necessarily prevent it, but by just taking some very deep breaths and just taking myself away from the situation, I would be able to calm myself down. So it just showed me that the power of the breath is really, really strong. So using that, taking that away from my yoga class and just making sure I did yoga all the time really, really helped me at the time. I can't remember what else helped me. I mean, food, that was around the time when I started writing my first book and learning how to eat, learning how to make the food that I grew up eating. And yeah, I think that's sort of it, connecting with the friends that I had back then.
So your connection to your roots, like, do you feel that it increased, like, just from you looking into all of this, to you learning the food, or have you always had, like, a strong connection to India and been going there all the time?
Um, I think learning all the recipes and learning all the food that I grew up eating definitely made me see the whole of my heritage from a different lens, because I think I just grew up eating amazing food, not realizing what went into making it. So that made me appreciate it from a different angle, and appreciate what, my mom and my aunts, my grandmother cooked, and what they did on a daily basis, just by instinctively doing it, rather than me thinking, oh god, what do I need to put and how much of this and all those things, which should be intuitive or had become intuitive for them and just normal. And I was like, oh my god, how do you cook up this big meal? And obviously I learned all of that, and that was really amazing. India has always been part of my life, my DNA, my sort of yearly life. I love going to India. I think learning to cook and seeing food and all of that from a different perspective, and writing my book, going back to India was also different, because then I would be trying to capture things and speaking to people about what they're making and going into the villages with a different sort of lens. So yes, it does change your perspective. I wouldn't say that I wasn't connected to India before. I think before I'd go to India just as often, and I was living in close proximity because Dubai is very close to India, so I'd go to India quite often, and I loved it. I think it's really important and lovely to maintain that connection to your home country. I think it, some people think of it as a place to shop, just before your wedding and that sort of thing, and that's also nice. But I'm so glad that I've been able to see India and travel India, in different areas, in different ways, and through different passages of my life, and without too much fear, because I think I've just become accustomed to traveling in India. And of course, you have to be careful. But I think fear sometimes grabs hold of people, and people are sort of scared of venturing into areas unknown.
Mm. You know what I liked about your book and just your whole philosophy and taking Ayurveda and using it in daily life and stuff is that, like, I think, like, sometimes we kind of shy away from our own cultural practices sometimes, unless the Western world make it fashionable. Like, oh, let's do hot yoga, let's do this. And, like, it's almost like some people have to see, I don't know, like, people in the West doing it before they will think it's cool, right? And
Mm,
and even with Ayurvedic things like, "Oh, look at this, lotion. It's, got Ayurvedic science behind it, and it's like £52 or something." Whereas stuff, when we look into our own, cultural history, we've been doing it for years. Even, like, things like, when women give birth, so we have, like, Banjiri or whatever you call it, and eat that afterwards. Like, there's a reason behind it, and I really love the fact that you're owning your own heritage and putting it out there and kind of being proud of it. So, hats off to you
thank
for
you.
doing that.
No, I think that's really true. And I think it's really, I was speaking to someone the other day about cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation, the difference. And I think it's very easy for us to say as Indians that, oh, they're not Indian, but they're flaunting the whole yoga thing, or Ayurveda, or whatever it is. And I think there is such a thing as cultural appropriation. Of course, there is, but you can't. There's a bit of a fine line where you think, well,
Yeah.
actually, Indians haven't gone and owned. Did you go and learn and become that yoga teacher, or did you go and learn those mantras? And actually, if that person, white person, isn't pronouncing that mantra correctly, is the intention behind it good, or is she saying it properly but just not pronunciating it properly? And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that we've got to understand that you're right. Like, we need to own it first before criticizing others for going and owning something that we haven't yet owned. So it's really important to learn it yourself first. And I think it kind of annoys me when Indians go and say, oh, but that Ganesh shouldn't be in the yoga studio because they don't even know what Ganesh is, or something like that. Well,
Yes.
actually, there's nothing wrong with that. Why is it something wrong with it? I think it's lovely. It's such a wonderful little thing. Why can't I take something from another culture, and with paying respect to it, you're not being disrespectful, you're doing it in a nice way,
Mm.
using those wonderful rituals and things that they have.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%.
But
But,
yeah, I agree. It's really nice. It's sorry, I agree. Meaning, thank you for saying that. But I really think it's wonderful that other people, hopefully other Indians, are doing the same thing and owning their culture more.
Mm. But also, what I liked about, how you wrote what you've written in this book is that there's those traditions, but also you're kind of bringing it into a modern world because I read something in there about like how, like how when women are on their periods, they can't go into religious ceremonies or places or whatever, but it's kind of, I mean, the thing is, like, with things like that, it's like, okay, we have like pads and tampons now, we're good to do this, right? You've obviously said it in a nicer way than me while still being respectful. But that whole thing of bringing cultural traditions into a modern age to kind of, move with the times and not be so restrictive, I think is really important as well.
Yeah, I think you've got to understand the reasons why people did these things. Like when you think about the time and day and age when that particular rule must have come about, obviously they didn't maybe have pads, or it wasn't really possible to do these things without being, well, it's just not very nice to go anywhere. But you needed bed rest. What else could you do? You can't move
Yeah.
around physically. So that's where the rule probably came from. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me there, of course, and I'm not going to sit there and actually convince my grandmother that this is how it came about and that we shouldn't listen to it, because she won't understand that. It's not easy to explain to someone who's believed that their whole 90, 87 years of their life that actually you were wrong because this is the reason. So, respectfully, you would be like, well, actually, no, you're right. I completely understand what you're saying. And then do what it, but at the same time, do what you need to do, which
Yeah.
is, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it because there is no other, I mean, I don't think there's any other reason.
I mean, yeah, I agree, and I love how you phrase it in there. Yeah, so I think we're almost out of time, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your pearls of wisdom about
Thank
food,
you. Thanks for having
mood,
me.
rituals, and things like that. So what is next for you, though? Have you got more books on the way, cookbooks, any more partnerships out there that you're
Yeah,
doing, restaurants?
I've got a third book coming out this September.
Yeah.
It's on, so I think my brand is the chai brand. So I have
Mhm.
various flavors of chai. I work with cafes, restaurants, hotels. People can buy it online, chaibymira.com. But I'm now publishing a book, which is not related to the brand, but it just so happens that I also have a brand called Chai by Mira. But the book is on chai, but it's on the history, stories, and recipes. And it's actually been such a joy to write. So I wrote it all last summer, pretty much. So it's done. There'll be a few edits, I'm sure, but other than that, it's done, and it's out in September. So yeah,
That's
I'll
so
keep you posted
exciting.
on that. Yeah,
Yeah, keep
that'll
me
be
posted.
fun.
Yeah,
And
I'll
also,
keep.
I've launched my practice as an integrated health practitioner a bit more formally now. I've been doing it sort of word of mouth so far, and I'm more formally practicing as a practitioner now. So, holistic health coach, trying to help people achieve their health goals.
That's awesome. So if people want to find out a bit more info about you, and obviously on social media, you're sharing like amazing recipes all the time. So can you just share your website and social media handles?
Yeah, it's miramanek.com, miramanek.com, and it's at Mira Manek on Instagram, Miramanek, and again, chaibymira.com and at chaibymira.
Thank you so much, Mira. It's been lovely speaking to you, and
Thank you,
thank you to
Rena.
those, yeah, thank you to those who have tuned in. Either if you're on watching YouTube live or watching it back, or if you're listening to the audio version on your usual podcast platform. Thank you so much. Follow me at Sisterhood or Mummy Imperfect on Instagram or Mummy Imperfect on Facebook. Make sure you do share this podcast, please. That'd be really nice. Until next week, peace out, Bene. Bye.
Lovely. Just take